Pacifiers can be a wonderful tool to help your baby sleep, but they can also cause your little one to wake up more often as well. The reason this happens is because not long after you put your baby down to sleep with their pacifier in their mouth, it falls out. Then, as soon as they finish their current sleep cycle and move back into that light sleep and wake up, they're looking for their pacifier. And if they're under the age of 8 months of age, they simply do not have the fine motor skills to put it back in themselves. So they call out to you to put it back in their mouth for them. Now, you might be lucky and your baby might go back to sleep after you replace that pacifier. But if your baby is dependent on using a pacifier to fall asleep, they are going to wake up between each sleep cycle and look for their pacifier so they can drift off back to sleep. And given a sleep cycle, which is where a baby transitions from light sleep into deep sleep and then into REM sleep, followed by a brief period of partial awakening, lasts anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, this can lead to lots of ups and downs throughout the night. This is why a dependence on a pacifier often leads to short naps and broken nights of sleep. Now, I'm not saying don't ever give your baby a pacifier. In fact, I absolutely love them in the newborn phase. And there are multiple reasons for this. Firstly, newborns do not have the ability to self-soothe. But we know that sucking a pacifier activates the parasympathetic nervous system and actually reduces the amount of cortisol, also known as stress hormone, being released, as well as releases endorphins, which help to soothe a fussy baby. And pacifiers are so effective at calming fussy babies that they can actually help a newborn fall asleep. In addition to helping calm a newborn, pacifiers can also provide some pain relief during minor medical procedures such as heel pricks and vaccinations. And sucking on a pacifier at the onset of sleep at nap time and bedtime might actually reduce the risk of sudden infant death syndrome. And it's because of these benefits, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend introducing a pacifier at 1 month of age and continuing to use that pacifier up until 6 months of age. After 6 months of age, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend weaning your child off the pacifier because continued use of the pacifier after 6 months of age might actually increase the risk of middle ear infections. From a developmental perspective, I also recommend removing the pacifier at 6 months of age. And that is because children at this age generally have the ability to fall asleep without the use of a pacifier, and it's usually significantly easier to take the pacifier away at this point when the child is young compared to when the child is older. Also, weaning off the pacifier at this young age will ensure that your baby does not develop any long-term dental problems that can occur with long-term pacifier use. And this will also ensure that the pacifier does not negatively impact your baby's fine motor development or their language development, which can occur if a baby is constantly sucking on a pacifier all day, and this is actually preventing them from mouthing or playing with toys, as well as babbling. Now, if you do decide to stop using the pacifier at 6 months of age, there are actually 2 options to choose from. You've got the cold turkey approach or the graded approach. Personally, I find the cold turkey approach best for 2 reasons. Firstly, at 6 months of age, babies have the ability to fall asleep without the use of a pacifier. You just need to give them the opportunity to learn how to fall asleep without it. And secondly, only removing the pacifier for parts of the day can be very confusing for your child compared to just removing it completely. Now, with the cold turkey approach, you simply decide on a day to remove the pacifier, and on that day you throw all the pacifiers in the bin or you donate them. Then, instead of offering your baby a pacifier to help them sleep, you help your little one learn to fall asleep without one. Now, this does not mean that you have to let your baby cry themselves to sleep. In fact, there are lots of different methods out there where you can actually remain by your little one's side until they fall asleep. It can be as simple as staying with them and patting them to sleep. You just need to decide on a method that works best for you and your little one. The cold turkey approach is effective and generally quicker than the graded approach, but it is going to disrupt your baby's sleep until they learn the new way of falling asleep independently. Now, before we discuss how to do the graded approach, if you haven't already, make sure you click on the link in the description box below to get the free PDF on the New Parent's Guide to Naps, so you can know what to expect in regards to your little one's total sleep requirements, as well as how often they may be napping throughout the day. So what is the graded approach? The graded approach is when you gradually remove the use of a pacifier. And the first step in this approach is to limit the pacifier use to nap time and bedtime. That means if your child is using their pacifier throughout the day while they're awake, you would put a stop to that. You would no longer let them do that. Instead, the pacifier is to remain in their cot and only be used by them to soothe themselves to sleep. Now, once you have successfully achieved step 1, the next thing you want to do is remove the pacifier from all nighttime sleep and only allow it during nap time. Now, the reason we do this is because your baby's drive to fall asleep is higher at night than during the naps. And this is because they have 2 factors encouraging them to fall asleep at nighttime. They've got their circadian rhythm as well as their sleep pressure. Whereas the drive to go to sleep for naps is only guided by sleep pressure. Therefore, it's more likely that your child's going to find it easier to fall asleep using a different self-soothing strategy at bedtime without the use of a pacifier. For example, they might fall asleep lying in their cot while you gently pat them. Now, when you're going through this process, you may notice that your little one wakes more frequently during the second half of the night. And this is because your baby's sleep changes from predominantly being deep sleep in the first half of the night to light sleep in the second half of the night. As they enter the light stages of sleep and their sleep pressure dissipates with time, they can find it difficult to fall back to sleep if they wake up at non-feeding times without their pacifier there as a comforter. So if your little one does wake at non-feeding times in the early hours of the morning, you can actually do 2 things. You could continue using the sleep training method that you've decided on if you are already using one, or you could use the pacifier to help them fall back to sleep. Although this isn't perfect, it's a step in the direction of independence from the pacifier. As your little one's sleep matures, you may notice that they wake less frequently in those early hours of the morning and they cease needing the use of the pacifier to get a full night's sleep. Now, once your little one has mastered falling asleep at night without the pacifier and staying asleep until that desired wake-up time, the final step is to stop using the pacifier for daytime naps. Initially, your child may need your help to implement those self-soothing strategies that they are using to fall asleep at bedtime, but as they have already developed this skill, it should be a quick transition. Now, to make it easier to ditch the pacifier, it's also important that you set them up in a room which is conducive to sleep. So make sure you watch this video next to find out exactly how you set up an ideal sleeping environment for your baby. And if you've liked this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.